Welcome to Driving School WA Tutorials. Is it possible to pass a driving assessment by just using driving instructor's vehicle on the day of your driving assessment and without any professional driving lessons? So can you pass driving assessment with no professional driving lessons and one single lesson prior to your driving assessment on the day of your test? From our experience, we've been in the industry since 2001. It's almost impossible to meet criteria set by the Department of Transport unless you are familiar with all the procedures that form part of every practical driving assessment here in Western Australia. It's difficult to perform well if your knowledge of procedures is either inadequate or limited. So you've got to, know pretty well how and what to do. Here is how your driving test is assessed and what you must know in order to succeed, in order to pass your driving test. First of all, if you opt to use a private vehicle, make sure you get to the test centre 15 minutes early at least. Have all the necessary paperwork, and most importantly, don't forget your ID, which is your learner's permit in most cases. If you are more than 5 minutes late, you will not be assessed and you will lose the test entitlement, which means you will have to pay to book the next driving test. If you have medical certificate from your doctor that validates your late cancellation and or that you didn't show up for your driving test, you will have to submit it to your nearest Department of Transport office and they will reinstate your test entitlement, so that way you're not going to have to pay any extra to rebook. Here is how your driving is assessed on the day of your driving test. The following items would be automatic fail. If the assessor has to intervene to avoid a potentially dangerous situation, that would be an automatic fail. If you disobey a regulatory sign or marking, so that involves lines and traffic lights and everything between. If you travel over the speed limit, so you've got to be within the speed limit, it is very important and one of the most common reasons people fail. If you disobey any traffic regulation that immediately or potentially threatens safety, if you fail to respond to any crisis that would normally be anticipated by experienced drivers, if you cause any crisis or potential crisis as a result of your actions, which is most likely something that you would do out of being unprepared. You have to understand that assessors do not trick you into doing something that's illegal potentially, such as asking you to turn wrong way and similar stuff, and then as a result they fail you. So they do not do that, and that is against the law for them to do it. During your driving assessment, the examiner will assess all of the 7 criteria points. So they are looking, signalling, flow, movement, path, responsiveness and vehicle management. They will also judge how well you combine all of these components and how's your decision making as well. So all of those skills will obviously be the determining factor whether you pass or fail your driving test. Every practical driving assessment has 5 sections here in Western Australia. 3 of the sections are driving sections where you simply follow directions given by the assessors, so it's sort of point-to-point driving. Places you visit are random, so there's no set driving test route. So, you could watch a lot of videos where, it'll give you a good idea where you're going to go, but there's no set driving test route. 2 of the sections are exercises where you will have to perform a combination of low and high speed manoeuvres. We have separate videos about exercise left some behind and stopping for shopping, so you can check those out. Before you perform these exercises, the assessor will explain to you what you need to do, but they will not explain how you need to do it because they're not instructors, and they never offer help. Also, any verbal intervention by the assessor can be automatic fail, depending on the nature of that intervention. For example, if they say, you've got to switch the indicator off. If you indicate it too early and you're not turning on the street where there's a car standing, and driver obviously can be misled by your actions, and that is one of the situations where your test might be terminated if they give you a verbal intervention. So what happens at the end of the practical driving assessment? At the end of the assessment, regardless whether it's been discontinued or not, you will find out the verdict, whether you passed or failed, when you switch off the engine and when you come back to the office. Don't ask if you passed or failed before you come back to the driving test centre. Only concentrate on what you're doing at any particular point in time as you're driving, as you easily might miss something important by thinking about something else, even if you're driving perfectly up until that time. Now, if your question is, can you pass your driving test without any professional lessons if you're only using a driving school's car and, the short lesson with the instructor just an hour or, short time before your test? I'm sorry to disappoint you, but the chances are very slim. I always say that repetition is mother of all skills, and if you're doing the first practice session with an instructor on the day of your driving test, maybe an hour before, maybe a little bit longer, I wouldn't really be so confident that that person will pass. So how will you benefit from this video and information I provided here? Make some notes if you're serious about getting your license without going multiple times. You've got to have a good understanding of how you need to execute all of these tasks that I've just mentioned. Practice as much as you possibly can with both your instructors or private supervisors, depending on your budget, and at least do a mock test a couple of days before your driving assessment. That way you're going to know if you can pass or not. This shouldn't be discouragement for people who are attending their driving assessment without too much practice. So try to do everything to the best of your ability, and obviously as much as your budget allows you. So, that way you will at least increase your chances of passing. Watching video tutorials is pretty good, but look, it's not a substitute for practicing. So, you've got to do a serious amount of practice in order to pass. So if you've got any questions, feel free to ask us down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.